wanted to really focus on one issue and then maybe just have questions, because I think at this point in time the greatest discussions we have is on questions and things like that. But as we look at where we are today, I'm very pleased that we are where we are. We paid our dues getting here, by all means. I think I mentioned to somebody last night that when we made our announcement, I think it was on like December 22nd, about the final rule being published. To me, it was a really big day, a good day, in that we really were able to present a final rule that we spent a lot of time on. And it wasn't just the 2 or 3 years in rulemaking process that got us there. It was 10 years plus to get us to that point in time. We could very easily, or myself, I'll say that, think that it was far less than what we wanted to achieve. And when we look back, NIAA, National Animal Identification System, which was really initiated through U.S. Animal Identification Plan, which many of you were part of, I can remember those discussions, and our objective was to achieve 48-hour traceback. And we had a lot of discussions on how best to get there. It was a good plan, a good process, but as we look back, it was probably very aggressive and almost taking a step or several steps very rapidly. What we ended up with in animal disease traceability is maybe the first step in that direction. It's not the end solution, but it's a stake in the ground that we can build from and make progress from. It'll be very difficult for different administrations, if you will, to come in and pick up that stake and put it in a different location. So it's certainly what we needed was something that gives us some direction that we can build from. The concepts or the challenges we had from changing courses or moving directions, I think, is behind us. We have the opportunity now to move forward from. So the discussions that we've had with our counterparts at the state animal health officials and across veterinary services has been great, because we've had discussions that really allow us to talk about implementation other than concepts. And I think the concepts or the principles that we've laid out in our new approach, where the states take the lead on implementing ADT, is good. Less federal government, I think, is well received. We have challenges with regulation and flexibility. They kind of contradict one another, but I think we'll work through those issues over time. Several of us have had the opportunity to look at national ID programs in different countries, and they're really terrific. The European systems, the Australian system. But we're the United States. We value our approach in solving these type of issues, and minimizing regulations is appropriate. It would be wonderful if a producer reported animal ID records to us within 3 days of a calf's birth. Some of the things we're doing, we wouldn't worry about. But we're not there. We're not going to have a highly regulated animal ID system where producers are required to submit information. This whole concept of ADT is built on minimizing burden to producers. Yeah, we have to put a tag in an animal's ear maybe, but reporting birth dates, birth or calf records, identification records like the European systems is not part of who we are. In NIAS, to achieve 48-hour traceability, we talked a lot about movement records. Ideally, when you sell an animal, you report it out, and when you receive that animal to your premises, you report it in. Dual reporting system would have been fabulous, but again, that's a lot of burden to producers. So even in NIAS, we accepted the fact that we would allow movement records for the producer receiving animals to report those animals to a tracking database. ADT, we're not imposing a lot of new requirements on producers. We're capitalizing on existing movement documents for the most part, i.e. Interstate Certificate of Veterinary Inspection, and really focusing on breeding animals. So we've defined for the first time in the federal regulation interstate certificates of veterinary inspection, and very clearly defined what information needs to be on those certificates. So we're capitalizing on, it's not a movement document, but it's highly correlated with how animals move. So we're, again, trying to minimize the burden to producers by capitalizing on existing methods or practices that we use for animal movements, i.e. the Interstate Certificate of Veterinary Inspection. So with animal ID, movement documents, that really is the basis of ADT. Pretty simple. In the regulation, we've provided for the flexibility that we've committed to by allowing states to do something different at the local level. So if there's a movement, a specific movement, or a continuous movement of animals where Texas can achieve traceability other than an official ear tag as a requirement, they have the authority to do that. I'm not suggesting or promoting that they do, but there might be cases where states feel that a different method of ID is appropriate for a specific movement or types of movements that they want to establish agreements with. There's been a lot of questions about how formal these agreements need to be between states. And it can be a handshake or it can be a written agreement. If Texas says yay and Kansas says yay, those animals are good to go. I think what we have to realize is when a state receives animals on a different method of ID other than an official ear tag, that doesn't necessarily mean that that ID is good for when those animals move to another state. So if Kentucky accepts cattle on a different method and they move them to their neighboring state still might say, I need an official ear tag. So then Kentucky has the requirement to have those animals officially identified from Kentucky. So I think a lot of these things will even out over time. I think there's a lot of concern about the confusion that flexibility brings, but I think when we have these types of meetings 2 years from now, we'll realize how smooth it can work in those circumstances. What I wanted to go over today was, and allow some time for questions, is what I think is the most important part of where we're at today, and that's the simple principle of official identification. And in a lot of cases, we're talking about an official ear tag, primarily because we're talking about cattle as far as being the species or the sector that we're most, I don't want to say concerned about, but where our priority is, because sheep and goats, for example, with scrapie eradication programs, they're well identified and traceable in that regards. So when we look at official ear tags, we can call it tamper evident or tamper resistant. I think in the regulation it's really tamper resistant, and we can argue what that means or doesn't mean, but I think we understand the concept that tags cannot be easily removed from one animal and moved to a second animal. The official ear tag has an official number imprinted on the tag. We established a term called the official ear tag shield. Before it was, I think, the U.S. shield. The U.S. shield is, or the official ear tag shield is basically the logo of the interstate sign with U.S. imprinted inside the shield. There was concern that this mark or this logo was a mark of the federal government. And we took that pretty serious because we didn't want to go back to concerns about this being a highly regulated federal program. So we made the option that the state can use their postal abbreviation inside that shield if they feel there's a need to do that. And I think there's 2 or 3 states actually getting tags with their postal abbreviation inside the shield. So the U.S., the official ear tag shield is U.S. or the postal abbreviation. That might not seem like a big deal, but the most frequent question we get at our staff level is this tag official? We're hoping to work our way out of that because we need accredited veterinarians, we need producers, we need everybody to understand what's an official ear tag so that down the road it's very clear that these animals comply with the requirement for ID to move interstate. So we've established some timelines to mature into the use of the U.S. ear tag shield. All tags manufactured after March 11, 2014 should have the U.S. shield. How are we going to know when a tag's been manufactured? We're not going to worry about it. We're just going to make that as a requirement and use best judgment in determining that. Then all tags applied after March 11, 2015 must have the U.S. shield. Basically, we're wanting to, again, transition into this. So if an animal is tagged today with a tag that doesn't have the U.S. shield, it's okay, and it's okay for the life of the animal. We don't want producers to have to re-tag animals. We talked about the tag having a national or official number, animal number on the tag. We make a lot of reference to NUS these days, National Uniform Ear Tagging System. This is the numbering system, of course, that's been around for ages. 9 characters. The first 2 characters are the state or tribe numeric code or alpha postal abbreviation. For example, Wisconsin, either 35 or WI. 35 has been the standard for many, many, many years. Along the way, there was a request to have a second option that would allow the state to use their postal abbreviation. And we've also set up abbreviations for tribes that if they want to use alpha code as the first 2 characters, they can do that. So the NUS tag is readily available from USDA. We have a warehouse that inventories the metal clip tags for 40 plus or minus states that have been getting the metal tags from the warehouse. We drop ship those tags to wherever the state requests those tags to be shipped in volume. We do not ship these tags directly to producers. It would be great if we could, but they're boxed in strips of 25, 100 tags to a box. So we really rely on the states at the local level to redistribute these tags to producers, and it's their choice if they make these tags directly available to producers or not. There was a request from, I think, Iowa several months ago to have noose tags made available for pigs, and there is an option to have that number imprinted on small plastic tags. We don't care. We need an approved tag, but whether it's a metal clip tag or a plastic tag, our key is that it's tamper evident and it's got an official animal identification number. There is an 8-character version that's pretty much used in the sheep and goat industry through the Scrapie program. Also, tags with the 8 characters can be used for the swine and cervids. But again, these tags are really administered by the state animal health official. They're responsible for maintaining the series and maintaining the uniqueness of the number. There's been challenges. When we say nationally unique, I probably have to be careful because they're not nationally unique forever. When the complete series is used, and we've had this problem when I was at Holstein way back when, in California, Victor, we had young daughters of a bull that was dead and gone for ages reappear because those are rollover numbers where at the very end you start back at AAA 0001. So there are some limitations in regards to the uniqueness, but as a whole, that system has worked pretty good. The animal identification number, that was a number that was actually approved probably in 2004 plus or minus through a rule-making process. Prior to AIN, the only official numbering system that was recognized in the regulation was noose. So American ID, or not American ID, but the AIN number is 15 characters. The standard is 840, which is the numeric code for USA. When USDA published the regulation recognizing AIN as an official numbering system, the standard numbering system before 840 was a USA prefix or the manufacturer code. Electronic ID tags were being made well before 840 tags became available. So the manufacturers, through the assignment of manufacturer codes through ICAR, those numbers were out there. The intent was to avoid the need to re-tag animals. And so we recognized the other 2 versions of AIN. 15 characters. The only difference was the prefix. The intent was, way back then, to have a sunset date where we would move away from those numbers. Through the due process, that didn't get put in place. But through this traceability regulation, we've established that transition where we're wanting to move actually to the 840 version of the AIN number by 2015. So using these tags is good if they're applied before March 11, 2015. Recently, the USDA has a slight modification, and this is very important because it's not in the CFR. An official ear tag must have an official number imprinted on the tag. A noose number or the AIN number. Along the way, the dairy industry, for the most part, and there was other breed organizations and DHIA, used the USA version of the AIN, but omitted the zeros on the ear tags. So by regulation, that's not an official number. The Jersey tag here, USA, with the 6-7, there's leading zeros that aren't on the tag. To avoid the need to retag these animals, we've also come out with a notice saying that these tags are official through that transition period. So as we transition away from USA or manufacturer-coded tags as being official, we're also accepting USA plus the 8 or 9 digits as official. The only issue here is, again, the leading zeros are not imprinted on the tag. They're still unique numbers. The key would be that USA is imprinted on the tag, because the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding has maintained a good record of what numbers went to what organization, and the uniqueness of those numbers is well established. So in addition to what's in the CFR, we've recently recognized these tags as official through that transition period. Bottom line is they just don't have the leading zeros on the number. The other numbering system is, of course, the flock-based numbering system, where it's a flock ID plus a unique management number. In this case, the Minnesota number, the flock ID plus the 4605 is the management number. So all of this really allows us to move forward with, I think, a better definition of what's an official ear tag. It's not going to happen overnight. As we transition into this, I tag an animal today with an official ear tag that doesn't have the U.S. shield, has a 900 series prefix. If that animal lives for 10 years, that tag's still official 10 years from now. So it's going to be a transitional process where we move towards ID. But I think the key is the sooner we can get the industry and all of us working together to transition to tags tomorrow that have the U.S. shield and an official number, the better. We will live with the transition process for quite some time. So the quiz for the morning. Which ear tags are official? If they're manufactured today and applied today, which tags would be official? Not three. So Robert's right. The tag number 3, it's got a number that would be recognized as an acceptable numbering system today, but it's a reusable tag. So way down the road, if these tags were applied after March 11, 2015, which tags are official? And this is not a big deal, but I think as we try to, and I don't want to target the accredited veterinarians, but as we look down the road, the opportunity to make sure that we're working with producers on official tags. I mean, I go out in the country a little bit still, and producers think they have an official ear tag. Well, long term, that tag won't be official. It'd be a lot more simple, I think, in the future for AIN tags, if it doesn't start with 840, it's not official. Don't have to worry about it. That's important to us from a traceability standpoint because it gets back to the initial principle on tags, tag distribution, whether it's an AIN tag or a noose tag, maintaining a record of where that tag went. And I've heard a lot of discussions over the last day or so about tags where if we just throw tags out there and put them in cattle, it doesn't get us anything. We got to have a record of where those tags went. To us, it's the equivalent of a producer reporting birth information of calves because it gives us that first bookend of where the tag was distributed. So really those, I just wanted to go over our official ID tags a little bit because I think if we focus on that simple part of the equation, we'll make a lot of progress. It's not just putting an official tag in the animal's ear, it's what information we have. If it takes us 3 months to go through records of where the tag was distributed, or we don't have good records of where tags were distributed, we haven't gained anything. So in the regulation, we require that whoever distributes tags have records of where the tag was distributed. We're hoping that we focus a lot on putting that information into electronic systems. 840 tags are to be reported to the Animal Identification Management System of what locations receive those tags. On the noose tags, states are responsible for maintaining those records, but my point is it's just not the official ear tag, it's the timely retrieval of complete information about where those tag numbers went. And we have cases today where we've had official ID tags distributed, but we really don't have a good record of where they went. So that very, very, very basic principle of tag distribution, I think, is one of our key priorities.